Well, hey there, colorful quilters. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to make this cute modern triangle heart block. I lost my note screen for just a second. Okay, figuring out my computer. I got it to work now. We are good. Sorry about that. So yeah, in this video, I'm going to share with you how to make this cute modern triangle. Okay, so let me share my table here because I want to show you all the goodies I have on my table here. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how to make this heart triangle step by step. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background before I get started showing you that modern triangle. So one of my books is Modern Triangle Quilts. And each year I run a modern triangle block of the month from the book here. The book is full of different modern triangles and different modern triangle quilts, and each year I do a new one. But one of the biggest misconceptions I hear from quilters who are interested in the program, but they think it's too hard. So one of the bigger misconceptions around modern triangles is that the modern triangles are hard. And if you know me, if you're one of my students, I don't like to do anything hard. So what I wanted to do today is walk you through how to make a modern triangle so you can see just how easy making a modern triangle can be. All right, so I see a few of you joining in on the live broadcast. If you're joining me live, I would love it if you would leave me a comment here. Just let me know that you're watching, say hi. Chances are you're watching this on replay, and that is totally cool too. And if you're watching it on replay, I would also love it if you would say hi. Let me know you stopped by. Okay, figuring out my computer here. I broke it again. No, I didn't. Okay, good. Okay, so before getting started, I wanted to walk you through. I walked you through the why, but I wanted to make sure that you know where to get some of these resources that I'm going to be walking through today. So I'm going to be walking you through how to make this heart triangle pattern. This is a free sample on my website. You won't find this pattern in my book. You'll find it as a free sample on my website. So go ahead and grab that free sample and I'll walk you, and you'll have the pattern for you to enjoy. It's so funny. Someone shared, the Central Florida Modern Quilt Guild this morning shared a finished quilt they made just from this heart block. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a funny coincidence because I'm going to be demoing it today. Okay, so this is a free pattern on my website. You can grab it. And then, so the pattern that I'm going to walk you through today is foundation piecing, and I've got everything lined up to show you that foundation piecing. But that's not the only way you can make modern triangles. There's all sorts of different techniques that you can use to make a modern triangle. One of the more common ways is foundation piecing, but the other really common way that we make modern triangles is by sewing together a strip set like this one. I like to joke it's like in birthday cake formation. So we sew this together like in birthday cake formation, and then you lay down your triangle trimming template or an equilateral triangle ruler, and then you'll just cut out the modern triangle there. And really, making a modern triangle can be as easy as making a strip set. I'm telling you guys, I love making easy triangles. They're my favorite triangles to make. So that's how easy it can be. So these are the two most common techniques that we use inside the Modern Triangle Block of the Month programs and in the book. Okay, while I'm setting up for the demo, I am going to be checking in on the comments. Terry is here from San Diego, California. Good to see you, so to speak, Terry. Okay, so on my table here, I've got a couple things set up. So, oops, before I forget, I am going to be walking you through foundation piecing, but I'm going to be using my preferred method of foundation piecing, and that is freezer paper piecing. And this complete guide to freezer paper piecing, this is also a free resource that you can get on my website. It's a free 7-page guide that walks you through how to freezer paper piece. I do have a workshop all about freezer paper piecing, but this free guide might be a great start for you there. Okay, so I wanted to mention that because that is a free resource on my website as well. All right, so let's get to the demo now. Okay, so on my table, I've got my pressing mat over here. Let me go ahead and start warming up my iron over here. And I've got my cutting mat over here off camera. And of course, I've got my sewing machine. Because I'm using freezer paper piecing, I've got my walking foot set up on my sewing machine. So it's all set up. So that's what's on my table right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and walk through the pattern. So there's 2 parts to the pattern. And so you'll see this striped heart is one option, and that's on page 2 right here. And then there's another option that you can do where the heart is just solid. I'm going to be making the solid version today. And you can see I already have 1/2 of my heart triangle pieced. I'm going to walk you through how to piece this other half over here. All right, so when you print out the pattern, the first thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to make sure that it printed out at 100%. So I've got this 1-inch test square down here, and yep, it printed out at 100%, which is great because I've already pieced half of my triangle over here. Yeah, and I've already cut out my freezer paper, and I folded the freezer paper. So these foundations are ready to go here. All right, and then on the back of the pattern, you'll see some different design variations that you can make with just this pattern. It's a really fun pattern there. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side for now. I'm running out of space. Like, there's only so much space I can show. Like, you know, when I sew, I spread out. So I'm like looking for space where to put things. And Karen is here from Germany, all the way from Germany. Hey, Karen, good to see you here. All right, okay, so let's get to it. So this half is already sewn together, and so I'm going to walk through how to piece this half here. So I've got some fun fabric to work with. Okay, so since I'm using freezer paper, the first thing I need to do is baste my freezer paper to the fabric that I'm going to use. I'm using the solid black fabric. If you're using a print, you'll want to lay your fabric pretty side down. Because I'm using a solid, it doesn't matter. But for you print lovers, pretty side down. And we are going to baste the foundation to the fabric here. And what I'm doing is I'm just ironing all the way up to the seam line between sections 1 and section 2 here. And I should note that these foundations don't have any seam allowances on there, so you'll need to add your seam allowance as you're working. So you can see I've added a healthy fat quarter, no, excuse me, I was thinking healthy and I said fat, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And for me, I like to give myself some wiggle room, so it's a healthy 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so once that sticky side is basted on there, I'm going to trim away the extra fabric here. So I've folded the foundation back, and I am going to add the 1/4 inch seam allowance using my add a 1/4 inch ruler. I love this thing. And I'm going to do the same over here. So when I foundation piece, when I freezer paper piece, I never use seam allowances, so I can use this add a 1/4 inch ruler. So that's the reason why there's no seam allowances on that free sample. Okay, so I've got that first section all pieced on there. And my next thing I need to do is cut out my fabric number 2. So initially I had pulled this fabric to use. I was thinking, oh, this 3" by 3" square would be enough room, but it's too small, and I'll show you why. So when I am ready to add my second piece, I'm going to fold the foundation back like that, and then I line these up right sides together, lining up that raw edge over there. And then what I'm doing is I want to make sure that I have enough fabric covering the entire second section. And you can see it's all the way up to this fold right here is where I'll need to cover. And so I need the fabric to come down all the way here. And this piece of fabric is too small. So I was kind of disappointed, but then I found this fabric, and this fabric is super cute. Hey Sylvia, good to see you. Running late, no worries, no worries. And this is how I cut when I'm just making a couple of blocks. If I were making a bunch of these blocks, I would probably do a lot more pre-cutting, but since I'm just making the one, I'm just going to cut like this. Okay, so I'm putting the pretty side up. So for those of you that are using prints, pretty side up. Let me see here. Okay, then I'm going to line up my raw edge over here, and what I need to cut the fabric so that it's covering this entire section here. So where my fingers are, I need the fabric to cover all of that portion, and then I'll need to add in the seam allowances. And so I'm just going to cut this out, the rough shape of it, with my fabric scissors. And I'll trim it later when I have it sewn. So I've cut over there, and I'm going to fold this back so I can cut over here. All right. Okay, so now I've got this fabric, it's ready to be sewn. Let me walk you through how I'm going to sew this. Put this to the side. Okay, so when I go to line up my fabric, I've kind of lost the right angle, so I'll show you exactly what I look for. So I'm going to put these pretty sides together. So right sides together. And what I'm looking for is I want this shape over here to be the same as this shape over here. So I'll need to turn this around until I get it. And I might have flipped it over. I did. So this is a batik, and the fun thing about batiks is that they're the same on both sides. Unless I didn't. Sometimes I just get lost. There we go. There we go. Okay. I was like, I don't remember flipping it over, but yeah, batiks you can flip back and forth just like solids. I'm not sure if that's true of all batiks, but for this one. Okay, so what I'm looking, let's try that again. When I'm foundation piecing, when I'm freezer paper piecing, what I'm looking for is I want this shape over here where my tips of my fingers are. If you can connect the dots there. I'm looking for this shape to be the same shape as this shape over here. And once they're the same, then I can put them right sides together and line up the raw edges over here. So I've got the raw edges lined up now. And then I want to do a double check to make sure that all of my foundation section where my fingertips are is being covered by all of the fabric. And I have plenty of room back here. And so once I have all that set, then I'm confident I can take it to my sewing machine. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I've got my sewing machine all set up. All right, so what I wanna do now is I wanna set up my camera to get the angle over here. I've pre-recorded it for you guys. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show this while I set this up. Let's see if I set it up right. Okay, so that's how that looks. And yeah, let me do that later. So I've got 2 angles, but getting 3 angles on live is something that's over my head. So I had pre-recorded that. So that's what I'm doing right now. So as I take this to the sewing machine, I'm going to stitch right alongside that folded paper, but not through the folded paper. Okay. Marcia is here from Ohio. Hey, Marcia. Okay, so let me zoom in so you can see this. Okay, so it's a little tricky to see next to the white paper, but hopefully you can get the idea that when you use freezer paper, you fold the freezer paper back and you're stitching right alongside the fold here and trying not to stitch through the paper, though sometimes it does happen and that's okay. Colleen is here from Washington State. I was like, why did you say Washington State? And then I was like, as I said it, I was like, oh yeah, there's 2 Washingtons. All right, so once we've got that stitched, then we can press the seam. And so unfold the paper and then finger press the seam right here, and then press from the pretty side. Be careful not to press the sticky part of the freezer paper because that will leave residue, bad residue on your iron that you don't want. And then turn it over to the paper side and press all the way up to the seam line for the next section. So in this case, it's the line between section 2 and 3. And then I'm going to fold this next section back. I need to release some of the freezer paper there. And then I can add my next piece of paper, but before I do my next piece of paper, then I can add my next piece of fabric. But before I do that, I want to trim this seam allowance. All right, so I'm using my add a 1/4 inch ruler here, just butting that against the folded paper and just trimming that seam allowance down to that 1/4 inch. And then I need to get my next fabric, which is this black solid, and I need to cut a big enough section for the 3rd section here. And so I'm going to see if I can get it right here. I think I can. I totally can. Okay, so as I'm putting my unit down, what I'm looking for, and if you are using a print, you want to put the pretty side up so you can put these right sides together. And then what I'm looking for is I want to make sure that I have enough fabric that covers all of this part of the foundation where my fingertips are. And then I want to add the 1/4 inch around where my fingertips are. So I've got enough black over here, got plenty of black over here, and I'm going to cut way over here to give myself some wiggle room. And again, if I were doing a bunch of these, I would do a lot more pre-cutting, but I'm just making a couple. All right, so I'm gonna line this up. So pretty side up, line the raw edges together over here. And then I want to put my fingertips on where the corners of the foundation is. And I want to make sure I have enough room up top. I do. I need at least a 1/4 inch. I have plenty of black over here. I need that 1/4 inch. And then of course I've got that 1/4 inch over there. All right. And so once I have that all lined up, then I can take this to the sewing machine and sew right alongside the fold. So with the walking foot on my sewing machine, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but because we're not sewing right through the paper, we don't need to adjust our stitch length. So my stitch length is the regular stitch length. I don't need to shorten it. All right, next step here, let's press this. So unfold the paper, paper side down, finger press, press press, and then you can flip it over to the paper side and you can press everything. But we're going to be removing this paper in just a minute, so you don't need to press everything. All right, the last step to finish off this foundation is to remove the excess fabric. And the way I do it is I use my add a 1/4 inch ruler and I line up, just butt it up next to that edge of the paper and cut. And repeat all the way around. Okay, so once you get to this point, now you need to remove the papers so you can sew these halves together. And so this is the main reason I love freezer paper piecing, because to remove the papers, all you do is peel. You don't have to rip, no pain, just peel. You'll get some fraying, that's normal. And then once you have that peeled, you can reuse this foundation over and over again. How cool is that? Freezer paper, check it out. All right, so once you have everything removed, then you can sew these together. So right sides together, the seams will nest really nicely here. If you want to, you can add in a few pins. I've got the essentials in my pin bowl. Chapstick and pins. I love this chapstick. Candy cane chapstick. Whenever Christmas time rolls around, I always stock up. I love it so much. And then adding a pin for the top. And once you have it pinned, you can sew those together. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to change my foot because I want to put my 1/4 inch foot on. Walking foot. No, not the walking foot. So I'm going to change my foot. So no more walking foot, just a regular foot. Okay, now we're all set. I need to adjust my machine to a different mode. We are good. All right, and just stitch that with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can do a scant if you want, a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's not something I don't usually worry about the scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sometimes it's important, but not in this case. Try to remember to take out the pins as I sew over them. And I forgot that last time. All right, we can put the sewing machine away. We're done with the sewing machine. The last step to finish off this heart block is to press. For me, I'm going to press these open. You can press this however you want. So I set the seam, I open up the unit, put it pretty side down, and then I am going to come through, finger press the seams open, and then I'm going to chase my finger down the seam. I have a dry iron. If you have a steam iron, you want to be careful. you might burn your fingers. That hurts. Ask me how I know. All right, then turn it over from the pretty side and give it a good press. And we have made a modern triangle. Hey, Betty. Good to see you. Betty from Ontario. Good to see you. All right, so we have made a modern triangle quilt, and it's as easy as that, and it is incredibly fun. I swear, these are so addicting. All right, so some parting notes before we end the broadcast here. By the way, if you have any questions while we're on live, I'm about to wrap up, but last call for questions. Okay, so this heart-shaped triangle is a free pattern on my website. If you can get that, you can sample a modern triangle. And the method of the foundation method I use, freezer paper piecing, there's also a free there's also a free resource on my website for freezer paper piecing, and it's a 7-page guide. If you need more instruction on freezer paper, I've got you covered. I've got a workshop, freezer paper piecing masterclass, but you can get started with that complete guide to freezer paper piecing. These are completely free resources, so you can try them out. All right, if you decide that you love modern triangles and you want to enroll in one of my programs, you want to join one of my programs, you want to get the book, where you can go is makemoderntriangles.com, and I'll have all sorts of things for you to look at over there, and you can join if you like. All right, Marcia said, thank you for the pattern. You're welcome. Sylvia, you're going to miss tonight, but we'll catch the replay. Awesome. That is great to hear. Thanks for letting me know. All right, let me check in with my notes here, and then I will close us out. Yep, that's it. Okay, so if you get the pattern and you decide you just have to make more modern triangles, go to makemoderntriangles.com and you'll find everything in the Make Modern Triangles universe over there. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is it for me. Bye for now.